shuffle. King Hammond, let's hustle to the King Hammond Shuffle.
So, welcome to the Ska History Hour with your hosts, Jose Rojas
Hello.
and myself, Daryl Rubio, wherein the purpose of this channel is to spread awareness of ska music and its subgenres to the world. Our guest today is Grammy Award-winning musician, songwriter, author, and producer Nick Welsh, also known as King Hammond. Nick, we appreciate the time you're taking to spend with us today to speak about your stories and your music, sharing them with the ska community.
And I
We first
appreciate
see here
being
that,
here.
yeah, sorry. I first see that you started around 1986 on your musical journey. Is that right?
Um, as far as my musical journey started in 1976. I played some gigs, sort of small gigs with my band, and then the whole punk thing exploded in England, and that's when I started playing my first what you call professional gigs, which means paying. I mean, you got paid like whatever in dollars, it'd be like $5 each or something. But we played it. I used to play a club called the Roxy, which was like the main punk club. The first one we did. Let me tell you about the first gig I did.
Sure.
It was my band. My band was called The Dead, and we played with a band called Cocksparrow, who was
Oh,
still
yeah, of course.
hugely popular now. And that week, our big newspaper was called Melody Maker, and there was one called the New Music Express as well. But they had an article on the front, and it said Teds v Punks. You know, Teddy Boys, rock
Yes.
and roll fans and stuff. And they used to fight Teds and Punks, and I was amongst the punks on the main cover. And so we played the gig, and the front three people in this small club was Joe Strummer, Mick Jones, and Paul Simonon. And it was like, you know, obviously I was a huge Clash fan. This was 1977. I was 15 years old. And I thought, this is easy. This is how it's always going to be. On the front of the magazine, the Clash are there. It's brilliant, you know. And of course, it's not like that at all. But yeah, so I actually did that. I was making records in like 78, 79, like independent punk records. I was playing on people's stuff. But as far as, let's say, King Hammond goes, the first thing I ever did was in 1986. And that was also the year that I joined up with Bad Manners. So
Amazing.
1986 was a big year.
Yeah, you see the bands that you've been in, and let me know if I'm wrong, if there's anything I'm excluding. Big Five, The Selector, Bad Manners, Three Men and a Black, which Pauline Black's last name.
Three Men
Squabble.
and Black.
Oh, Three Men and Black. I don't know why I picked plus.
And Black, yeah.
And Black, sorry.
We had called that a few times when Pauline used to laugh, but you know. And that was myself and Pauline coming in from the Selector. There was J.J. Bennell from the Stranglers, Jake Burns, Stiff Little Fingers, Bruce Foxton from the Jam, my great friend Eric Faulkner from the Basic Rollers. That was great, and lots of people came in into it and out of it. Roddy Radiation, we did a two-tone tour. Had my friend Dave Wakelin playing on that, and that was fun. Yeah, Three Men and Black. Big Five was my own band that I had with a friend of mine, Jenny Mathias, who was a singer of a band, the Bell Stars.
Right.
Who had a big hit in America with Iko Iko, because he was in the film Rain Man. And another band that was my own was a band called Scarville UK, which was myself and other members, people that used to be in Bad Manners and the Selector and stuff like that. Right. There was also Busters All Stars, which was something we were focusing on in 1986 more than Bad Manners. At that time, you go through periods when you're in a band and you're big, or you're not big, but if you're a big band, then you kind of drop out. And then after about 10 years, you become legendary. But Bad Manners at the time when I played, I never even considered myself like a member of the band. To me, I thought I was just helping out old school friends, because there was like 6 or 7 of us who went to school together, and things weren't going great. The band had just been dropped from CBS, an album called Mental Notes,
Mm.
And we also had a sort of side band, me and some of the band. But eventually, because Buster, Doug, was always asking me about playing. And then eventually said, okay, well, let's do it. But we started doing a band called Buster's All Stars, which was basically just going around London bars. We had some original songs because that's what I'm about, original songs. But we'd go around, do some Prince Buster, some Upsetters and stuff like that, because no one was doing it
Right.
at all. I think there was one ska band that I can remember at the time was called Potato Five.
I love them.
Yeah, no, I love Potato Five. They're still going
Yep.
in one guise or another. I've seen them play. But yeah, no. So we were doing that, and then it's kind of I slipped into playing with Bad Manners more. I mean, I was playing bass in Buster's All Stars, but then I started doing gigs on keyboards with Bad Manners, and then it was bass, and then it was this, and bit of everything, and then eventually, to cut a long story short, the two bands merged. Which, to be honest, I wasn't that keen on at the time. I liked doing Buster's All Stars. I'd written a song that I'd written for Buster for the band called Skinhead Love Affair, and I thought, and it became a very, very popular song. But I did that, and I thought, well, this is good. This is like originally. I don't know if you're familiar with that song, but
Yeah, of
when
course.
I wrote it, it was like I wanted it to be a swing song, like Frank. I met her at a ballroom gig. She said
And
my
my
braces.
braces were too big.
Yeah,
I said I
yeah.
like your two-tone clothes. I said I like your broken nose. Yeah,
I
of
know,
course.
better than some people do. But yeah, and especially I bought her lots of drinks
It's
that
that
night. Bow!
night.
She bought
You
me,
got me
you know.
nothing but a fight.
In
She said I
fact,
wasn't Mr. Right. Yeah.
in fact, I've actually just started playing that in King Hammond because I'm a bit. I don't know what the right expression would be, OCD or whatever about everything. I only do songs in King Hammond that were written for King Hammond. There are songs that Bad Manners went on to do, like Scarville UK is one. There's a song called Memory Train,
Yep.
which is on an album called Return of the Ugly.
Yep.
And I'm kind of, well, no, hold on. These are my songs, but they're not King Hammond. But now I just think, well, I'll just play my songs. And we've started doing Skinhead Love Affair. We did it for the first time last weekend, and the crowd went mental, you know. And the only bit I didn't do is a bit where it slows down because I actually wrote that song for Buster in mind. So it had a bit for his character when it was the man's always the last and all this, it slows down. And I stole the guitar bit from Layla as well. For that. But yeah, so I'm starting doing that, and it is good. I like it. I like it. I mean, I just have my own rules, but sometimes you shouldn't have any rules in music. But I think, well, that's not King Hammond. This is, and people, and also sometimes you get a bit not upset at all, but when people go, "Why did you play those Bad Manner songs?" And I said, "Well, they're mine. They're not Bad Manner songs." You know, you know, and so it's a bit weird, but you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, so yeah, I did my first recording under the King Hammond moniker or whatever in 1986. Although nothing actually came out on vinyl or CD until 1988. It might have been a song called the King Hammond Shuffle, right? Which I recorded that and the song called Scarville UK on the same day. They're in the same key. They're basically the same song because in my warped mind, I thought, well, if you're starting something, you've got to have your own sound. So I thought, well, what's better than I do two songs almost exactly the same? And they are. They both got stops in them. And yeah, I mean, even that song was I guested on it. There's a new band in England called Death of Guitar Pop, and they did a version of it because they loved it. So I did that there. So that's got another life now, you know, with another band, you know. But yeah, and then that was my thing, King Hammond. I loved doing that. The first album was all stuff, all 70s based, you know, songs about kung fu and whatever, you know, minor, whatever pornography bits in it, you know, sexy songs, you know, because in reggae, there's the thing called slack, isn't there, and stuff. I mean, this was not even slack reggae. This is like, you know, comedy. basically. And but because of the commitments of Bad Manners, and then later on the Selector, being so busy, I never had time to do any justice for it at all. I mean, I did 15 years. It sounds like a prison sentence, doesn't it? With the Selector, but it was absolutely lovely and great fun, and we made some good records, I think. But I got one chance where I got invited onto. They said, "Would you be the band for Laurel Aitken and Dave Barker, and open up as King Hammond for them all?" And I went, "Yeah, of course I would." And so that was the only thing we ever did. And there was also an album I did with Dave Barker, but the record company, in their wisdom, turned around and called it Dave Barker and the Selector, which it was never Dave Barker and the Selector. It was a Dave Barker and King Hammond album called Kingston Affair.
Yeah, and we've got a question about that one.
Basically, all you can hear is me playing it's King Hammond with, in my opinion, the best reggae singer that I've ever heard. And I'm talking about, it's strange because and Dave Barker, I've only just been talking to him in the last couple of days. He's known for and the Magnificent and stuff like Shucks of Mighty.
Yeah,
his voice is the most soulful voice I've ever heard. I mean, when I've shared rooms with him, you're sitting around in the house, and sometimes you just break into a song and you think, "What's that thing called? Imposter syndrome." You feel like, "What am I doing?" This man. I remember sitting with a friend of mine and he just started singing Redemption Song.
Yeah.
And I thought, God, how can you sing that well? You know? And so that was great fun playing with Laurel and Dave. And then in 2010, it was my son. I'd finished doing Scarborough UK kind of thing, because I think the mistake I made there, the albums are really good, but having Scar in the name, it wasn't like it is in England now. Say, I don't know what it's like over there, but there are a lot of bands with the Scar, the Scar Monsters, whatever,
Yeah.
I mean,
Mad Monster Sound.
In my day, as I could say, and I was lucky enough to work with them, become friendly with them, there was only really the Scatterlights, really. And that's the top. You can't get any better than that,
right.
And so, Scarborough UK was just like a way of saying, well, to introduce. But I knew that I was never just going to play ska music with the band on records. Sometimes, you've got reggae grooves. Sometimes it'd be a dancehall groove. I like to use pedal steel on some tracks, and that freaks some people out, because I'm a big country fan, boy.
Yeah.
And I like, so I don't think you should have rules. And I mean, it's like, for instance, I hope I'm not answering questions before you've asked them, but you might think about a co-wrote called This Is Scar, which had already been out by a guy called Lonzy D. But it was acid house.
Yeah. I
And
actually have that.
Have you got that? He's gone to get it.
I think he's got it. He got everything, it seems like.
Where did you get it? Amoeba?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, probably Amoeba.
Yeah.
One of the great record shops in the whole world. And I believe they've changed. I believe they've moved building now.
Yeah, they did. In LA.
I've only been to the one on Sunset down there where it's changed. But he's actually gone to get the record, hasn't he?
I have the vinyl of it, but I also have it on here too.
Oh, that one,
It's also on, but I have the single itself also. I just can't find it.
You see, and so he rang us up and said, basically it was, can you make this ska? So I went in and played bass. Oh, there you go. I think he's got Double Trouble on that one, which I always loved.
Let's see.
Was it Double Trouble Rebel MC?
Yeah, Double Trouble in the.
That's great. I loved that whole thing. I mean, obviously, there's going to be some records that aren't as good as others, but I like that idea. I've always liked the mixing of, like people do mix. I mean, ska punk was very big at one point, wasn't it? I mean, I'm not sure it might probably still be, but I always like the idea of mixing. It's quite a novel idea. Black music, which is ska music, with other black music. I wasn't that keen on mixing it with punk rock. I'd like the idea of it with a bit of um, hip hop, or stuff like even jazz and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But which is what I try and do now. I'm trying to fight my dog off as he's going for my leg. And you have to go away. I'm talking to some nice people here. Yeah, so I like the mixture of the thing. But yeah, basically, so I turned it into a ska song. And at the time, this is 1989, people weren't that keen on it. They said, this isn't ska. This is, because it kind of sounded quite dancey, digital drums and stuff. But now, in this country at least, I mean, every cover band I hear, they usually do it. And, I hear it, all the DJs always play it. So it's taken like 30 odd years, but it's here now. But yeah, I just like that thing. I like all a lot of the tracks on that album there.
Yeah.
I just like the mixture of a band that I really like in England, one of the bands to come out is Maroon Town.
Oh, I love Maroon Town. I've got a lot of stuff from them.
Yeah, they mix it up and I really like them, And I just would like if there was a bit more. I mean, but there you go.
Yeah.
You can't have everything. So anyway, where was it? So then in 2010, after Scarborough UK ended, that's when I started doing King Hammond because my son asked me to do it. And I just thought, okay, maybe I'll give it a go. And since 2010, I've written, recorded and released even, over 250 new songs.
Amazing.
In 15 years. Wow. 250 songs. I'm very proud of that because I'd say like 200 of them are really good. And then the others are not bad. They just like maybe I tread water a bit on them, or maybe they're written because I think, people will like this. Which I'm not a big fan of writing for other people. I write for myself.
Of course.
Otherwise it's like, why bother? And that's why I basically write about myself all the time, my life. What you try and do as a songwriter is make it so other people can relate to it. They go, I feel like that. Or that. Who did you write? It feels like that song's for me. And that's always good. So, But that's what I do.
Cool. So can you tell us how you first got introduced to ska music and what attracted you to the genre?
Well, I first got, when you're talking about the genre, you got the ska genre, which went into, rocksteady reggae. So obviously, I think the first thing I heard was commercial reggae in England, which was basically the Israelites and stuff like that, the chart stuff. And basically the stuff that was recorded in Jamaica, but then it came over to say that Trojan stuff, and they added strings on it to make it more palatable for a white audience. I actually really like the strings in it, but obviously not for that reason. If you check out a record, like probably my favorite of that time was Young, Gifted and Black. I've heard the original Jamaican mix and it is really good, but I do like the strings. It makes me weep. I mean, the song does anyway. But where I lived, there's a place called Manor House where I went to school, and it was, without being thrown in, it was like very multicultural there, without people thinking about it or pushing you together. You were just friends. If I've always said this, I won't use the word that someone used in a book, and they said, could we use this quote that I said? If someone's not very nice, it's not a black, not very nice person. It's not a white, not very nice person. They're just not very nice. That wasn't the word I used in the book. They quoted me on. But yeah, so I used to hear that. And so my mates, like black mates and stuff, would play me lots of reggae. And I'd return the favour, and whether it was a favour for them. And they'd get T-Rex and Bowie and Slade, and bands like that, and that's how we got it, and it was great. There were just so many little reggae shops where I lived, and every Saturday we'd go in them and buy singles. God, it was heaven,
Oh, nice.
And it was just great hanging around in the old. I mean, not just for reggae, in pop music or rock world or soul world or whatever. In those days, let's just say, for instance, the early 70s, you could hang around in a record shop for like 2-3 hours. And the guy would say, I've saved this for you. I think you might like it because you like this
Oh,
band, you know. You like Little Feat, so here's the Doobie Brothers. You know, you might get that, you know. And it was just great. It was just good. But yeah, how I got into it, and then they started playing lots. They got into the charts, and then you'd hear it on the radio, and then occasionally you'd see people like Dave Barker or Desmond Decker on a program called Top of the Pops,
oh.
which was, I don't know what your equivalent was. Was it Bandstand or whatever?
Yeah,
American
yeah,
Bandstand.
Bandstand, American Bandstand. Yeah.
Or for me, although it was a certain genre driven thing, I watched a documentary the other night on Soul Train, and
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I was in heaven because the music I really love was like, well, soul, but I love Philly soul and
Mm,
stuff like Detroit Spinners and stuff like that.
hmm
And but they did actually focus, and quite rightly so in some ways, on the dancers on Soul Train because they're just like magnificent. They
yeah.
look brilliant. They dance like, oh wow. But yeah, so I was very lucky to live in the area that I did. Also, I'd just like to point out that my father was quite a successful musician.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he did like literally thousands of records in the 60s, 70s.
Wow.
You know, a weird story which I put onto my Facebook, and this was years after. When I did on my first album, King Hammond album, Revolution 70, which costs a fortune if you can get it. On eBay, it's like £100 at least.
Wow.
There's a track on it called March of the Skinheads. I didn't know my dad had written and recorded a version of that in 1970.
Oh, really?
Not a version of that song, but with the same title. You know, I didn't know that. And he'd done bits of reggae. He'd done a lot of what's called Northern Soul,
Hmm
Oh,
which, you know, to me is just like orchestral pop. And then he worked with all the people on the Mersey Beat thing on the Brian Epstein roster, Cilla Black and Jerry and the Pace, all those people. And other people like, there's a great singer called Jimmy James who actually started off ska. He's Jamaican. I can't remember what his band's name was called then, but he did the first cover version of Red Red Wine. It was Neil Diamond's song
hmm
with my dad, and it's tearful, so soulful, and people, you know, like Gina Washington, all people like there's so many. So I was lucky enough to be taken to studios like Abbey Road and stuff when I was like 7 years old.
Nice.
Go and sit up in the studio booth and watch the orchestra playing with my dad downstairs and stuff. Got to meet lots
that's
of
awesome.
famous people, go to TV studios, you know. I just want to point
Amazing.
out as well, this isn't a privileged thing. We weren't rich people. He was a real working class person who learned to read and write music himself and how to do it. And then he's, you know, I suppose I've always lived in that shadow because I used to listen to him playing a couple of notes on a piano, go back out, write it out. I mean, for a start, that's a mystery to me, writing music. And then next thing, you'd go to a show of his and there'd be like a 75-piece orchestra playing all this stuff. You know, it's talent beyond my, you know,
Mhm.
wisdom or whatever. But, you know, so I was very lucky to that. So I was always surrounded by music in my house all the time, whether it was my mum just being there and turning up the radio really loud anytime any Motown record came on. She'd be starting dancing and that, you know. And I've got an older brother. So like there's a thing, well, I don't actually think it's a proper thing, but I call it elder brother syndrome, you know, where you get to get your brother's records. You know, in our day we had a thing called hand-me-downs. So that was the clothes you got when,
Yeah.
you know, you were too small for your brother. I had records as well. Like that's how I found out about Hall and Oates and people like that, you know, back in the early 70s, Steely Dan, that I got through my brother.
Oh yeah.
And all this, you know, like it's elder brothers music. We like the pop music, you know, Slade. Come on, feel the noise. But he had the more intelligent, you know, Bad Jack do it again. All that, you know.
Yeah.
So it's just a whole musical thing. And basically my whole life has just been music. That's all I'm
Awesome.
interested in. I have a family that I love and they're everything to me. And the only thing that really I'm interested in is music. You know, when I first started coming to America and touring, I just couldn't believe how many records I could get in a suitcase to take home and how a lot of American-based music, it just didn't seem to interest the Americans. They were more interested in our world or whatever. A big one being doo-wop. I love doo-wop. And you could get them in the bins for like 50 cents.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. It was fantastic. I'm not sure if record shops are still a big thing over there even.
They are. They are. Yeah, it just depends on what they sell or what they specialize in.
Yeah.
I know for you, the first prior to Revolution 70, the first release of any King Hammond track was on Ska for Ska's Sake.
Oh, you've got them there. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
And you got the King Hammond Shuffle.
Yeah, that's right. There was 3 records in that collection, I think. Or
12 Commandments of Ska and Ska for Ska's Sake and License to Ska. I have them all, of course.
That's right. It's a bit like Bowie's Berlin trilogy without the talent. It's like, I did Skinhead Love Affair wrote, and that was on the first one. King Hammond Shuffle, and then a track called Right on King Hammond. Yeah, all on Skank.
That was on Blow Your Mind, right? The last one?
Right on King Hammond was on one called The 15 Commandments of Ska.
Oh, that is 15, not 12. Yeah, I have that too.
Yeah, there's those 3. No, that right on King Hammond wasn't. There was a follow-up album planned, and that was called Tank Tops and Hot Pants. And I recorded it all. And then the company that was Buster's company, Bad Manners, he had the rights to use the Blue Beat name and image. He went bust. So it never came out.
Yeah.
So, I was all ready to go because on that label, obviously Bad Manners was the biggest seller, but King Hammond sold the second biggest amount. And I would say, it's because the music's brilliant, but it also helped that I was actually the guy doing the press for the company. So it was always the album at the time was Return of the Ugly that we were pushing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when you'd finish selling that to the person, you'd go, oh, but you should try this one as well. And it was my album, King Hammond Revolution 70. So that was good fun. But I really liked that time, sort of 87 to 89 or whatever. Spent a lot of time over here. I remember playing even not as Bad Manners, it was Buster's All-Stars. And we played a place called the Variety Arts Centre downtown in LA. And if I'm not wrong, I think it had a boat on top of the building. and it was really weird. For someone from London, they took us to this Chinese restaurant. And everybody who'd worked in there was a criminal. They'd let them out, and that was their thing there to do that, It was really, really exciting. And I remember that night because No Doubt was supporting us.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
But Gwen was a backing singer. It was someone else.
It was, I forgot what his name was, the black dude.
Wasn't her brother was there, I think?
Yeah.
Because we talked about it years later when we toured together. She's lovely and stuff.
Eric, her brother Eric.
Yeah, I remember it was really funny because we got off the plane, you're seeing all America and stuff. This is so good. And we played a place to warm up for this show. And there was only 3 of us came. It was me, the drummer, and Buster. And then we get in the car. I'll do the accent, but it'll be horrible. Hi, we've got to tell you about this Friday. We got Buster's All-Stars on at the Variety Art. And we just played a pub called the Dublin Castle, which held about 100 people. And, to warm up for it. And it was just so funny that we're over there being treated like, And it was 3 gigs that weekend. It was, I think it might have been, I might be mistaken, but it was certainly very early days of Golden Voice. And there was 3 shows. There was us, there was Stiff Little Fingers, who came over, and Paul Weller, I think it was.
Oh, wow. In the jam.
And the Variety Arts is a great boon. I don't know how many people, it was like 2,500 people or something. And the backing band for us was the band Donkey Show.
Yeah, from San Diego here.
Yeah, and then we did, I think we did San Diego. We definitely went to Tijuana. I remember that because we played above. Can you say the word titty bar?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I don't know. You used to be so strict over there. You can't say that.
But I know you have like 70 between King Hammond and you as Nick Welsh, you have 78 releases as King Hammond, and
That's only on the Jekyll Jive label.
what's that?
I released them myself. Before that, I had the record N1 Records. That's because I live in a place called Islington in London, and the postcode is N1. And then there's all the other things. But just on that alone it's like, well, I've got 2 that have just arrived today. One's called the Ultimate Collection. It's got loads of new tracks on it, but it's got some that I've chosen from the last 15 years, and another album called Art Therapy. I'd show them to you if I had them, but they're in the other room. And
then just as Nick Welsh, you have 8 releases, which I think I have.
I think there could be even more than that.
I have 5 of those.
Just a copy of the new records are in the other room, and I could show you to them. Show them.
So some of the albums I see, like you mentioned, Tank Tops and Hot Pants, but you have Back to the Garage with Rhoda Dakar.
Yeah.
You have
we did 2 albums together.
An album or like an EP called Fuck Off Christmas. And another
you can't say those words, man. Fuck off, I'm going.
Another one called Pussy O'Clock.
Right. Do you want to know the story about that song?
Yes.
Yes.
I wasn't trying to be clever about it or make this thing. I'll just show you this. Thank you very much. Right. That's the new one. Look at that sexy picture.
Yeah, look at that.
You know what? I think that's one of the first ever times, look, Digipack,
okay,
that I've ever put myself on the cover. And it's because I'm so proud of it. Right. And then
the Beat is Blue, the one you did with Jump Up.
Yeah. I don't usually put them, and there's a nice back cover where it's more arty. And this is one called Art Therapy, which I really like. My son did the artwork for that. So that's what's out now. Yeah, no, with Rhoda, we did 2 albums, one called Cleaning in Another Woman's Kitchen and one called Back to the Garage.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've had loads. There's been, that was on N1 Records. The one Jekyll Jive, the label, it's just coming up to 80. There'll be another 2 releases in September.
Nice. Awesome. Can't wait.
That's, to me, going in the studio or writing songs or whatever, and don't forget, it costs me. Sometimes I remember when we had the lockdown, people were saying to me, you must love this, just being at home in your studio. And I haven't got a studio at home. I write songs on the acoustic guitar into my phone, and I go into the studio where it costs me, but it's like buying food or water or something. It's just my lifeline is doing new music.
Right.
I do generally make them for myself. And if other people like them, that's brilliant. I love that. But I just do it for myself. It's like, what would I like to hear? And then I go and try and do that.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
But
what inspired you to start performing as King Hammond, and how did you choose that persona?
Originally, it's just because there was, as I said, no ska bands around. Bad Man was there. I think Madness had split up. All the two-tone bands had gone. Used to get the occasional gig with Desmond Dekker and Laura Lakin, but to me, they're another planet. They're like, whatever. And I wanted just to hear records like I used to hear, these really strange little records, whether it was the Upsetters, just weird things. And I noticed that there was a lot of... I remember when I was at school and that you was asking about the reggae thing, and finding out about Jamaica, and I had a little globe, and I couldn't find Jamaica because it's so small. On the globe was tiny, and I remember thinking, how did all this talent come from one small place? It was amazing. But one thing I noticed, that there was a lot of people, and I don't think they were actual royalty, but you had your Prince Buster or Lord Tammany. So that's how King Hammond. Originally, it was going to be Lord Manchester. I don't know why. I just fancied the thing about Lord. I think King is setting it quite high. Setting your false royalty quite high. But so it was going to be Lord Manchester, but they ended the King Hammond because the Hammond organ, along with the pedal steel, is my favourite instrument.
Mm-hmm.
And
That was
the strange,
that was really prevalent on your first couple albums.
yeah. Oh no, the thing about it is it's not even a Hammond organ.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's off a $20 Casio
Oh,
machine. The drums that are on it are not drums; they're from the machine.
okay.
That's why when people said I thought it really sounded like the original, it doesn't. And nowadays when I listen to it, it sounds like music I've never heard before or since.
Hmm.
It's not anything like, when you get a band like, say, the Agrolites, they sound like so good,
Hmm.
but it sounds inch perfect to the things. This doesn't. It sounds shabby, you know. But it's got its own life, Mate, I mean, I probably couldn't play as well as any of those guys. I mean, I've always maintained, I always thought that American musicians were far better than English, technically. You know, we focused more on the big chorus and whatever. Whenever I used to see like bands on the bill of us, say, supporting us, like a band like, say, Let's Go Bowling or the Skeletones or any band, when you listen to them in a sound check, they could all play funk or jazz or whatever. We couldn't. We could just play the songs that we've written. That was it. We couldn't go off and go, what are you doing? How can you do that? They could all play really well. I was always quite jealous of that. I've got
Yeah, I'm
it.
gonna go see the Agrolites next week. They're supporting they're the backing band for Linville Golding.
Oh, that'd be nice. So we played with Linval last year,
Hmm.
and it was really lovely. He's good. You've got to go along and support Linval. And the Agrolites, I mean, they're fantastic band.
Yeah, they
They're
gotta
fan-
bring you. We saw Linville at 2 years ago at Supernova Ska Festival. They've got to get you to come out.
Yeah.
I've tried 3, 4 times to get on that festival. I could have played with, and I mean, obviously, I could have played with another band because I am King Hammond, and
Right.
it's not a band. That's what I do. I go to Argentina. I've been to Costa Rica, wherever it is in the world, Mexico, blah blah blah, and I use a band over there. So, and it also keeps prices down because you've got to be aware that people don't have a lot of money.
Right.
You know, you try and do whatever, and I'm very reasonable like that. But I have actually asked about 2 or 3 times to that festival, and they said, "Oh, we're full this year, maybe next year." So who knows?
Uh,
Maybe next year they might ask us. But I'd love to do it. Got plenty of friends who play it, and it's like, I think this year, was it last year? Some friends I toured with, 2014, Bim Scalabim,
Yeah.
did all the East Coast with them. And we could have played together or anyone. I mean, the other thing is my songs are so easy. They're 2 and 3 chords, and it's all about the feel more than the technical ability. And then I let people go off, do their solos, play, and I'll entertain the crowd or whatever. It's just, I'm very serious about my music, but it's a very fun show as well. And I want to involve people in it. I want people to look at me on stage and think, you know what? I think this guy actually wants us here. I think he's not there, certainly not there for the money. But he wants to be here for us, and I do. Whoever comes, I cherish them for
Hmm.
coming, just to give me that time so I can maybe let them hear what I do. So, yeah, I'd love to do that. I'd love to play over there so much more, but you have to be asked.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
hardest part.
you know,
Now you
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 know.
briefly touched on your album Kingston Affair. That
Oh
was
yeah.
released as like you said, Dave Barker from Dave and Ansel Collins and the Selector. You were actually quoted saying that this was maybe the biggest disappointment of your career. Tell us about that whole change up.
Well, as I said, I got invited to tour with Dave and Laura Laitkin as the band. From that, we got a real friendship going. And a company, it was Moonscar, but that's an American company, as you know. But like, this is the English side shoot, or whatever you call it.
Moonscop Europe.
And they said, "Would you do an album with Dave Barker?" I thought, yeah, and it was absolute pleasure to do. Nothing to do with what the Selector were about and stuff. Um, and he got down, and then it was like, right, and we gave them a cover, and they said, "Oh, we was hoping," and then it was Dave Barker and Friends. It was originally Dave Barker, King Hammond, then it was Dave Barker and Friends. And I said, really? It sounds a bit lame. And then they really basically said what they wanted to say all along, which was Dave Barker and Selector, because I thought that would sell more records. When, of course, the Selector's name's huge, much bigger than King Hammond ever is, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure that helped it, you know. And, you know, I'm not sure whether that was right to do it afterwards. I certainly think so now that it was a mistake. I knew it was a mistake at the time, but whether it was right or not is a different thing. And give Pauline a due. I said, is this okay? And she actually came along, did some vocals on a couple of things. So at least it had that. And there was some bonus tracks that were live tracks where Dave had come on with the Selector. At least, and I made sure that happened, because otherwise the music's got nothing to do with the Selector.
Mm-hmm.
It's all, you can hear it. I mean, there's even like a song called Can You Hear, which I really like, which is me singing. And, you know, would I be singing on the Selector? Yeah, I might be singing backing vocals, but certainly not that. You know, they have the very, very good singer. And so I was a bit upset about that. I feel like it was treated. And I think nowadays, if it had been a Dave Barker and King Hammond record, I think it'd probably do really well. You know, I think it deserves another go. I think it's owned by a company called Cherry Red. So who knows? Maybe if they choose to reissue it and they come to me for anything, I don't know why, because they've done reissues of Bad Manner stuff that I produced and I wasn't approached at all. Which is strange, really, because I've got loads and loads of outtakes, loads and loads of songs that weren't on there, but no one asked me. Right. So, you know, they're just still sitting in a cupboard, you know, and I think people would really like that. As a buyer, and dare I say that filthy word, collector, you know, I'd do it. That's what you get it for. I mean, I think I bought Ziggy Stardust maybe 20 times in my life. The worst one being where the one before had bonus tracks on it, and then the next one they took off the bonus tracks. They said, no, it's not right, really. It should end on this track. So what they've done is sold it to you, then taken away what they sold you and sold it to you again. And I still bought it. Because that is a collect. You know, I'm not saying it's a total man thing. I know plenty of women that collect records and are into it big time. But we do seem to like that alphabetical order, genre, putting your music in, kind of a male thing, isn't it, really? You know, I remember I used to get upset when I was like 12, 13, and you go round to a girl's house, play records there, and she'd put her name on the vinyl. What have you done? You've ruined it.
Yeah.
You know, got this beautiful label and stuff, you know, but, you know, or they take girls take records to parties in a plastic bag, no sleeves, you know, it was like, you know, that was wonderful. And there's an actual song on a King Hammond record called Vinyl Junkie. It's on an album called Showbiz. And it said you desecrated the label. You wrote your name on Virginia Plain. Like, you know, which is, I thought that was quite a good line anyway. I'm sure it will see the, you know, time of day soon again. I'm trying to get all this stuff. What I really want to do, I mean, eventually you could be the first people to know this as well. So I've only just decided this. 2 times so far, I've paid for and gone onto streaming services, right? And then a month later, I've taken it all off. So it's cost me money to do it all. I just don't feel right with it. But I'm getting to the stage now where I just think maybe you should be on there. You know, maybe I should. People say, well, that's how people listen to you. That's how they get to hear you. Well, that's not my problem. I mean, you don't get paid properly, you know.
Right.
But anyway, I think I might do that. And so to compensate for that, I think I'm just going to do vinyl albums, you know, real small runs, maybe no more than, I don't know, 250 or something. So you're basically, once again, like the writing of it, making it for yourself, just so I can have a copy. And then there's 249 other people in the whole world who can share in it, you know. Right. Yeah. But I mean, you know, I've always thought that. I mean, like, they look better. I'm not sure they sound better. There's this big thing, oh, it's warmer and all this. I'm not sure that's exactly true. But because all music, you know, they say it's the best place to hear it. Well, the best place is in a studio with really expensive equipment you know, playing it very loud, especially when the record company come in. Hold on, I'm just going to cough. But yeah, so I'm thinking of doing that. I'm thinking of putting my stuff up for that. You know, give as much people can hear it as possible, and just run basically a vinyl label now.
Cool.
I've got 2 coming at the start of June. One called Rebel Dancer, and one called Strips of the Bone. And then I will put another 2 out. The only problem with vinyl is the amount of time it takes, you know, to do it. And of course, another problem, and I realised this yesterday when I was sending out some CDs to your fair country, was the price it now costs to send to America.
Yes.
Some CDs, 2 CDs, no weight at all. What used to be £3.50 in our money is now £8.
Wow.
I don't know what's going on, and being the kind of ex-punk rocker but still got hippie values, I don't want people to pay that for my music.
Exactly.
I don't think it's right. You
No.
know. I say to people, I've tried to talk American people out of buying it. I said, look, this postage for this album alone is £25 or something now, and the record costs the same. You know, I don't want people paying £50 for a thing. It's not fair. It's not right. You know, so.
What you've got to do is ship all your stuff to Chuck. Chuck ran over at Jump Up.
Yeah, Chuck
and
Ran.
have him.
I've done records with Chuck.
Yeah.
I've done that. I've tried that way, and you know, it was fine. It was all good. I've done it with a German company called Randell. You know, but yeah, I just think it's all very expensive. But then I suppose life is expensive, and you can't live your life like you're in the 60s.
Yeah.
Oh man, I just want to give away the records for nothing. You know, let's do a big Scar show for nothing and give everything away. No, you know, you've got to. I mean, I would never ever. Here's a music business word: recoup the money I spend on studios. The only thing I look to recoup is the actual physical pressing of a record, and that kind of stuff. You know, the mastering of it, this, that, and the other. The actual thing, you know, when you're going in the studio 2, sometimes 3 times a week paying money, you're never going to get that back. But I don't care about that. It's mine, and it's something that's very precious to me. Music, you know. And
so can you talked a little about your writing process, how you just like play your guitar and you're in the phone, but can you add a little more to that?
Well, I would say this, as I say, never have rules and things. You tend to write differently if you write on a keyboard with a piano or something, or guitar, do different songs. But one thing that is for sure, mainly every song I've ever written, ever, starts off with a title. Because the title gives you an idea, you can think how you can hear it, and you know, what should this sound like, you know. And basically I just write about my life, whether it's how you're struggling with certain things. I mean, it's pretty open in my book. I had a pretty free and easy lifestyle with recreational party things and stuff like that. You know, I've written about that. Now, you know, you want to stop things and stuff. I've written about, you know, every conceivable subject in my life, whether it's the death of your parents I mean, on this new record, I've heard, and you wouldn't know it, there's 3 songs that are all about, you know, mental illness, basically, or whatever the word is supposed to be, you know, my mental illness, you know, the black dog, as they call it, or whatever it is, you know. But, you know, you wouldn't know that because I'm pretty good at writing songs, I think. And, you know, so they don't all say the same thing, you know. But, you know, everyone suffers with certain stuff, you know. And that helps me, you know, get it out there, you know what I mean? And I've had people saying, I can relate to that. Thank you so much for writing it, which is wonderful, you know.
Yeah.
You know,
That's so wonderful.
Track on the new record called Art Therapy, the album, there's a track called Compliant Citizen, where the chorus is, where has my rebel gone? And I wrote it a few years ago. It was about taking vaccine, which I did because my daughter asked me to do. She's because I, not the healthiest person in the world, and I saw people in these machines like for breathing stuff, and I thought I'd never last that. And she goes, "Dad, please don't, get when the vaccine thing came." So I did, and I thought really ashamed of myself afterwards for a while. I thought not about having it, about how easy I was. But when you're kids, you do anything for them, don't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And you get a couple of your friends might say, "Oh, what, you're going to have another vaccine, or or a flu one, or whatever." I don't know. My answer
Especially
used to
to
be
be
this:
around for your granddaughter too.
Yeah.
I've got 5 grandchildren.
Yeah.
I've got 4 boys and 1 girl, but I don't know why she always seems to take priority billing.
Yeah,
Probably because
I see her in all the posts.
yeah, well, it's either that or my dog.
Yeah.
That's as personal as I get on there. I mean, I feel like I'm not going to tell the world everything. "Oh, I've got a bad foot today," or whatever, because I've got songs people could listen to if they're really that interested in me. But yeah, no, that's my nice little bit of normality. My
Mm.
kids. I'm going on holiday with my daughter and my granddaughter on Tuesday to Greece for a week.
Oh, very
And
nice.
that'll be like,
I've
oh,
always wanted to go there.
very nice. I just read they had an earthquake there yesterday.
Oh,
Oh,
In the very place I'm going to.
oh, I hope everyone's all right.
Yeah, well, in fact, you know what she said, and my wife said as well. Well, you spent enough time going to LA. That didn't bother you then, did it? Which I thought was,
buddy.
very true
Yeah.
as well. Um, but yeah, so I'm going to try. I don't say I'll manage it, but not think about my band, music, records just for 1 week. It won't happen. I'll be sitting on the phone. What are you doing? I'll be writing some lyrics or something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. You'll hear something that triggers you. I got to write that down.
Yeah, I got it right down. Yeah.
You do, especially when you're trying to sit, by a pool or whatever. But I do need a holiday. I mean, I'm not sure if you know this, but I had a very bad time last year, where I nearly died,
Oh,
like a few minutes from dying or whatever it was. I had quite a huge heart attack, and with kidney complications and liver complications and stuff like that. And yeah, but I've actually avoided writing about it. I think no, you don't want to do that.
You keep that in your back pocket in case you need it.
yeah.
Yeah, in case I'm busking or somewhere. And then just, I mean, yeah, I mean, and also, I mean, I didn't do a gig for, it's not a long time, 2.5 months, from when I had it. And the first time I went back, I was scared. I was thinking, what happens if you go, "La," whatever? Does that, you don't know. Should I move as much? Should I do this? You don't know. And it was fantastic. And
Yeah.
every gig since has been great. And it's been a blessing every time I'm on stage, You realise, that, and as I said, family,
Yeah.
But I had a very, very close shave, And
Well, thank God everything turned out okay.
Yeah. Thank God.
yeah.
Now,
Well,
you started your music label N1 Records and then Jekyll Jive after the whole Kingston Fair album experience. It's known that you said that you would never work for a record company again. What has brought you to change your mind, and how long after that did you utilize the resources of other labels like Randell, Liquidator Music, and Jump Up?
um, yeah, because you're not recording for them. That's the difference. You're recording for yourself, and then they put something out. I forgot about Liquidator. Lovely records. They really take pride in. Well, so did Randell as well, and Chuck, in their covers and stuff. And Liquidate one was really nice. Had a picture of a nice skinhead boy and girl on each side, a little pull-out thing. It was like the 70s. It's like I expected Dark Side of the Moon to come out or whatever, but yeah, no, just because, and we have deals with it. It's like they print up whatever it is, 500 copies, I think, or whatever. You get some, they get some, they go, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's a nice, easy arrangement. It's not record companies telling you how to label your records, or maybe you should be doing more of this, or, I do it all myself. and they just get the finished project. And I'm really happy with all three that I've been with.
Good.
You know, that's the difference. You know, there's no input at all into what I record. You know, and I know people love their vinyl. You know, and I want more vinyl, and you know, it's just easier sometimes to let someone else do it, and you know, not do it all yourself. Because I mean, I run a band myself, I do all this myself, you know, and I know I don't look it, guys, but I'm 63. I'm very beautiful. No, but you sometimes it's nice to have other input, you know. And
Right.
I've been happy with all three people that work with. And there's been another couple of other little companies that I did. There were some singles. I can't even remember the name, I'm ashamed to say. One was with a band called Krabs Corporation. And we did a cover of a Herbie Hancock song, which again is unlike me because I don't do covers. The only time I ever do a cover is for an organisation called Specialised, run by a friend of mine, Paul Willow, which is really good, very, very worthy. They do great work, great weekenders they do.
We actually have Paul. Paul's going to be on here in 2 weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why? Are you having difficulty sleeping?
No.
I'm joking, of course. What's he going to talk about? It's Capone's.
Yeah, Capone's.
Yeah,
we saw them a couple of years back in Supernova.
He's a good friend. And you know, he's another one. I think he's just put out a single this week.
Yeah.
Or whatever, you know. Yeah. And I think they've had about 5 albums or something. Or whatever. You know, I'm very proud of him doing all that because they started off, they were doing lots of covers and stuff. And I think when he got his hooks into it, they started doing less and less, their own songs. I mean, the way I look at it is, with the cover things, not what I'd want to do ever. It's not my kind of thing. But the biggest and best band in the world ever were a cover band at the start, the Beatles. And the reason why they started doing their own songs is said because they used to be top of the bill in Liverpool, and they'd be sitting backstage, and then they'd hear someone doing another one of their songs they were going to do, then another one, you know. And by that, the 3 bands before would have done their entire set. So they decided to write their own songs. You know, tomorrow night I'm playing in London. I always do another one of my OCD things. I always do a 15-song set, and none of them I've written every one of them and co-wrote one. This is Scar. You know, because also the other thing is, I found out that when you do something, you play a gig and people are really great. They sing along to my songs. They do all that. And so you think, oh, well, I'll just play one old song for them. No, you're guaranteed that's the one that's going on YouTube. You know what I mean? And so you get loads of versions of whatever, you know. The one I do is Carry Go Bring Come. I love that song. And it reminds me of the time with the Selector, which was, as I said, good fun. And that's the one that will go on YouTube. So you end up having 100 versions of it on that.
Yeah.
You know? So if you've only got the choice of my own songs, and you know, and I think when I play, I do remarkably well. A man who sits there and sometimes doesn't even play his own old songs that people know. You know, I do songs from the last 10, 15 years. And people are so kind, you know. And you know, they make me really happy. Tomorrow's show is just down the road from where I live. It sold out a few months ago, so it's good. And
nice.
Everything's good.
Now, which of your albums or tracks do you feel best represents you as an artist, and why?
Right. My favorite track and my whole period, I did an album called The Outsider and one called Hate Culture. I think The Outsider is on YouTube, the whole track. It's a little more, well, it's a lot more reggae based. And yeah, it's more, dare I say this word, I don't mean rootsy, but for me, you know, there's elements, and I say once again elements because I'm a white man from London. There's elements of dancehall and stuff like, but you know, I'm old school. I know who should be at music properly, you know. But it doesn't mean you can't use a beat or whatever, you know. And I'm not singing in a strange accent, you know, mimicking someone from Jamaica or whatever like that, you know.
Right.
I've got respect for people, but like just little things or little dubby things, and but I don't put it like a King Tubby thing. It's dub light, you know.
Of
It's
light.
just enough. It's pop, and there's just a little element, little reverb there, little, you know, whatever. Because I'm very aware of who I am and what I should do, and I'm not into, you know, trying to just copy whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The song's the most important thing. But the song called The Outsider, I love the music. It sounds good. It's really well produced and played. And mixed by an American, I might add. A guy called Charles Reeves, who worked with Prince, Grace Jones, all these people.
Nice.
And I started working with him. He basically gave me the studio at rock bottom price because he said, I'm listening to your music and I don't think you're getting what you deserve, you know, which is really sweet thing to say. I mean, I hear that a lot, you know, but one thing you got to know about me, I'm not going to play the game. I'm just going to be me. You know, I do what I do. I can't copy other people and do that, you know. You get elements of where you think, it's like the most famous songwriter in pop ever said this, and I've always thought this. I didn't realize Paul McCartney, even when he wrote songs, said, "Oh, when I wrote this, I thought I was Ray Charles." Yeah, I think it was Long and Winding Road he was talking about, and I thought even Paul McCartney thinks. I thought it was just me, and people like me. You know, you think because you know you think, oh, this is a bit like whatever, but it's not. It's you.
Right.
You don't sound anything like in your mind. You know where the original thought thing comes from, but it's not. You know, but I can't play the game of pretending to, you know, dress up like in certain clothes and stuff or do certain things. It has to be me. That's what makes what if it's got any, you know, anything good about it at all, it's because I'm totally honest with my music and I just want to make it for me, and that's what makes it important for me when other people want to buy my music, you know. And I'm a very, very honest performer. You've seen me play. I want to bring the audience in. You know, I wanted to make them feel. That's why I do little things like, just say, for instance, you were there and you had a shirt on, like, you know, an English beach shirt. And so I can say, oh, that's really nice, blah, blah, you know, and just have that little bit of a, so people know you're there. You're not there just to get money and pay this. You're there, you know, we're all part of the same thing. Because it's 50% audience, 50% artist, isn't it? You try doing that gig without an audience and see how you get on.
Right.
You know, and people sometimes I've seen people forget maybe how important that is. You know, I don't underestimate people or a crowd.
That's great.
You know.
Now, can you tell us about your experience working with the legendary Lee Perry back in 2002? On the Trojan Records release of Jamaican Extraterrestrial, wherein you wrote the tracks, played bass, and you also won a Grammy for the best reggae album.
This is what happened. I got a call from someone asking if I wanted to do it, and as my drummer Al Fletcher, who was also on it, who was in the Select at the time, who's now sadly passed. He passed at 45. The nicest man you could ever meet, and what a drummer. But anyway, I said, of course I'll do it. I'd actually played before and met him before. I got 3 tracks sent to me. They were all hip hop songs, quite famous hip hop songs. And could you get the bass line off and just learn that? Sure, this is what we're going to do. Right, so there's the musicians sitting in the studio. We did 3 songs, did them in about 20 minutes. And then it was just like, what are we doing now? The studio was blah, 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 blah. So I looked and I just started taking out old bass lines that I never used to King Hammond, or making stuff up on the spur of the moment because I can do that, you know, bass lines and stuff. Me and Al, the drummer, were so tuned into each other, we could just do it then. And everyone scratch heard, he went, I like that. I like that. I like that. I was being paid by Trojan by the song, so I didn't get any credit for all what I did. And to be honest, when I listen to it now, which is not at all, but when I listen to it, I mean, Roger, the producer, did a really good job pinning everything together. But really, it's the bass and the drums that stand out for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not being disrespectful at all. You will not find a bigger Lee Perry fan than me. And then I got a phone call a year later or something saying, "Oh, you've won this," and I was happy. But then you get the thing where you think, "Oh, I wish it was something I like."
Wow.
We had a chance. I would have loved, and it's nothing to do with the producer we had. The producer we had was fine. He's a great guy, great producer, but I just would have liked to have done it. Just because I would have gone a different way. Maybe even tried to put my foot down with him and say, no, we're doing this, and guide him a little, you know what I mean? Not that I can guide Lee Perry,
Right.
you know what I mean? What I just thought maybe could have been a bit more contemporary in the sound, and I'm sure he would have liked that. He's done it with other people,
Mm-hmm.
But you get that chance, and as I say, Lee Perry, I'm obsessed with the guy. Super Ape's probably my favorite reggae album ever. I use a lot of flute on my tracks, and that's all down to Lee Perry, because I remember hearing the flute on Super Ape and that, and to work with him,
Mm-hmm.
and he said he remembered me. I'm not sure if he did or not, but it was also quite hard because I was the only person in the band that he really spoke to. They had to go through me, then I told the others. It was just the way he worked. It was funny. I realised the other day when I saw a clip of us, we did a live concert for Trojan Stroke Secret Records. And I realised that I'd actually been on stage twice in my life with someone wearing a Superman's outfit. One being Lee Perry and the other being Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
Yeah, two people. But I mean, they're small, minor, little picky things. First of all, it's an absolute honour and a privilege to play for him, because I just adore the person. And as I said, Roger, the producer, Roger Lomas, he did absolutely the best with the things he was given to work with, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And all the musicians are great on the record, but it's when you win something and you just wish it was just different. And I suppose everybody did. I suppose he would.
Yeah.
But
then you also did another album with him after Alien Starman.
That was at the same time. They was all done.
Time. Okay.
34 tracks in 3 days.
Oh,
well, that's what I
wow.
That's what I'm not saying that's how. I mean, I left it. We went in bass, making it up, and then I left after 3 days, and then they had to put all your backing vocals on keyboards, all that stuff that makes up a record, and whatever Lee had done, and then they were just split over 2 records, and then there was a DVD called The Ultimate Alien, I think.
The live concert.
Filmed in Brighton, and we play. And the thing I think why it's quite remarkable about that is, whoever it wasn't me. But I was surprised that when we got there and we were allowed to do some really old Scar stuff that he did, because to my knowledge, he hadn't done anything like that before. Rub and Squeeze and Dr. Dick or whatever it was, But as I said, once again, I'm a 12-year-old boy or whatever looking at The Vampire by the Upsetters and looking at every bit of the record, or looking at any one of those albums, and then all of a sudden you're working and I feel like that with everybody I've done, whether it's Prince Buster, Laura Lakin or Susan Cadogan or Rico or anyone. I am so honoured and so blessed to have done that, and I can't thank whoever I've got to thank enough for those chances, you know what I mean? because
Yeah.
that to me is the music.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Because
it's
besides,
like when I used to.
go
Sorry.
ahead. I'm sorry.
I said it's like when I used to tour with the Scatterlights or play on the same bills with like Derek Morgan and Trin. I just was in awe. I did tours with the Scatterlights all over America, sharing a bus and with them and hearing all these stories, some printable, some not printable, whatever. And I just couldn't believe, sitting there with Roland and Tommy and Lloyd and all those guys. That's an absolute honor.
Mm-hmm.
I remember once, for some reason, and if it was me, no, it would have been me. If it was me running things, I wouldn't have really even allowed this thing. I remember some of the gigs, they went on before us, Bad Manners, on some shows we did. And I remember playing a place called the West Indian Bar, I think it was. And they showed you, this is like over 30, 40 years or whatever ago, in San Luis Obispo. And I was talking to some American ska kids out the front. And I goes, "What are you doing?" Talking to them. And they goes, "We're waiting for you to come on." I goes, "The Scatterlights are playing. And we've come to see you." I went,
Wow.
Now you can see both.
Yeah.
And that's nice of you, but like, why didn't you go in and check it out? Because this is the best. I mean, at that point, because I know there is still some kind of thing playing now, isn't there? Scatterlights, I think. But this time you had Tommy Rowland, Lloyd Nibbs, Lloyd Brevet, Lester Sterling. It was a good amount of Scatterlight there.
Right.
And I was every gig, I just make sure that I was there, just at the side watching them. We toured Japan together. It's just incredible. That's the real thing for me. All that stuff. I love all the other things that have come, and there's been great, like Two Tone that followed, and American third wave, as they like to call it. Got loads of friends, loads of bands that I like. But come on, this is the stuff.
Yeah.
And we're just like, hanging on the peripheries of it all. I don't care how big a band gets. There's the Scatterlights. And then, you got Prince Buster. Man opens his mouth, I'm in heaven. That's how it is, And the first time I met him, it was a friend of mine called Gaz Mail.
Yeah, from the Trojans.
He was in Ham in the 80s, sometime 80, whatever it was. And he said, "Do you want to meet Prince Buster?" I went, "We're talking about," but I knew Gaz knew everyone. Then this guy walks over. I thought he was about 30. I thought, I can't be Prince Buster. He had a leather outfit on, and he just looked too fit. Look, I was Prince Buster. I don't know what I was expecting. I went, "Hello," and he did that voice. I can't do his voice. I went, "Hello, Nick. How are you?" That's the man.
There's the man, and here's the other man.
Yep, a lovely man too. Both very lovely men. And then I thought, that's Buster. Well, as soon as he opened his mouth, I went, and I just couldn't believe it. And we became really good friends. And I just can't believe that. I went to a thing. Went to a Trojan party one time with my wife and JJ Burnell from the Stranglers. And I knew Buster was coming. He said, "I'll meet you there." And when he walked through the door, the room parted. It was like, what,
like Moses.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone was like going, and he just walked forward and he just came up to me and just hugged me.
Oh wow!
I was like, what? And there were some people who knew me there, and then there's other people going, "Who's that? Who's that guy?" And then I introduced him to JJ, who's he's the most alpha male I've ever met. He's the man who invented, you know what I mean? And he's whatever it is, a 9 Dan or whatever it is, blah blah blah. And I said, Buster, I said, "This is JJ. He's got a band called the Stranglers. He's a brilliant bass player." And he went, he goes, "But not as good as you, Nick." And even JJ was quiet at that moment. It was a wonderful moment. But and everyone, like Rico Rodriguez, you couldn't meet a nicer person. You know, it just and such a lovely person to play with, and you know, I can't stress how much I've been so lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Been so lucky doing this, and part of the King Hammond thing is to move that forward. There has been songs. I've got a song called "Voice of the People" on an album. There was one called David Ansel, and I always want to put forward those people, you know, because they're the ones why I do what I do now.
Mm-hmm.
And as I say, you know, and people like Lee Perry and I mean, it all works its way in the way Lee Perry did Susan Cadogan's big record, you know, and you know, it's just I'm so happy to have done that, you know, which is why when you pointed out that Bad Manners thing, it's like, oh, you know, I don't mind people bringing up the fact that I've played and worked with, you know, close to it. No dismissing the bands I've been, of course, they're, you know, equally as brilliant in a different way, but it sometimes can leave you in a funny position.
Mm-hmm.
You know, very happy to have played in bands, as you know, and Select are wonderful. I like that. I just rewatched Pauline's film again, and it's absolutely brilliant. I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't seen it. We did see the Selector. Was it last year when they were out here?
Last year. I want to say last year. Yeah.
Last year it was 2 days before Gaps passed away.
Oh no, that was horrible.
Yeah, because I talked to Pauline and she said, you know that she had to get back right away because I think they just did the 2 shows. They had to get back right away, and then that's I think the day that she got back is when he passed.
Yeah,
no, he's a lovely man, really lovely man. And when I was in the Selector, he came in and out a few times. But truth be told, it was never as good when it wasn't those two.
Yeah,
because their voices combined, their the thing they had going on stage, brilliant. But yeah, she's got a great film out, and it's quite tearful as well. Really good.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I got to see Gaps play a couple times back in the early '90s when they came here.
That was with me. Yeah.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have recognised me though because I had long hair.
Oh yeah,
in Pearl Jam. No, or whatever it was. Yeah, I remember one. I've got a one on DVD. A gig we did at the Belly Up.
Yeah,
we played there, and it was incredible. And we had John Bradbury on drums as well. God bless him. Yeah, we did some great tours there with Gaps. And when he wasn't there, the times that I used to have to do James Bond, and it wasn't a patch on him. It was like it's Gaps' thing. That was his, man.
It was. I think this one.
Oh, that one. Where's that one?
This one is at the Riverside Convention Center. This was like 90. On that one. I don't know, 91, 92 maybe?
1991. It was the last gig of our 1991 tour.
Oh, was that
first came over here? It was a Sunday, I remember.
Yeah, I had Pauline sign this when she was here last.
Yeah. Oh no, that's nice. No, that was great. That was a great tour. We came over, and that's when I went back, and I wanted to do some more gigs with the Selector. So I was still in Bad Manners. It's got very dark here.
Yeah, it did.
Because it's at that time of evening. It's got very dark. I'll lean forward.
Okay.
Or I could put the light on, but I won't. Hold on. Do you want to put the big light on for us? That's a bit better.
Go. That's better. That's better.
It's good. It's good.
So, how do you
live show.
How do you feel your style has evolved over the years from your earlier recordings?
My style?
Yeah.
Or did you say my scar?
Your style.
You say
my style. Oh, well, yeah. It's got a million times better, a million times more professional. I'm totally, totally on the ball with what I do. I never fake anything on a record. I never faked anything before, but it's just I'm really happy what I do now. I just really, the truth be told, I write music for myself. I've said that about 4 times to you, but I would love more people to hear it.
Of course, yeah.
And especially in your country, I've got a big love affair with America. Always had loads of friends there. loads of bands that I've toured and played with, so many memorable shows. I just, I'm the only man who fantasizes about Denny's, thinking, thinking about a
That's
moon
fun.
over my hammy, whatever.
Mood over my hammy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and nights playing at the Palace and all that stuff. That was so good, Oh, I loved it, and I'd love to come and play more, but you have to be asked, and it has to be promoted properly. I'm sure if it was promoted and people knew about it, some people would come.
Yeah.
I'd like to play with some American bands, not necessarily just of ones that I remembered from, say, the 90s or the 80s or whatever. New bands. I don't know if there are any new. I don't know. There must be.
Were you
There's a
were
lot of new
you in
bands.
were you in Bad Manners at this time? I think this was 91 or 92 also.
I left Bad Manners in 1991. I think I can see my picture on there. Yeah, I can see my picture.
Yeah, this was with a bunch of local bands in where the hell was this? Somewhere
This is
in
LA.
no, oh, Fontana, in Fontana.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't think that. Then I think that must have been 92 because I don't think I've ever played there.
Oh,
The
okay.
last
But
show
then
I
there's
did was,
some other ones that I have all the clippings from here.
yeah, you've got
I
it
don't know if you
all.
played the Scatolites, Bad Manners, the Scatolites.
Yeah, well, I would have done that one. I remember the first time we played with the Scatterlights was at the Golden Bear in Huntington Beach.
Golden Bear. That must be way defunct now.
Oh, it's gone.
Mm.
Oh
I
yeah.
think it's gone. Yeah. I was asked to leave a dressing room. We went there the night before, arrived, parked up on the beach, and we went over to the gear just to get drunk and see if we could get free drink and stuff. And Don McLean was on. And he was huge in England for a while. And Don McLean, obviously.
Mhm.
American Pie, Vincent, or whatever. And we went backstage to the dressing room to see if we could take some of his rider from him, his drinks and stuff. And I just said, could you get rid of these people, please? I don't think he didn't like my singing American Pie to him or something or whatever. You wrote that, didn't you, Don? Well, let's get another drink, will you? Or whatever. That was fun. Yeah, but I think that was the first time with Scatters. I remember playing the Palace a few times there and whatever. It was, they were great days. And there was one great show. Was they that show? No, they weren't. We did a thing called Earth Day in San Francisco in
yeah, that was with me, Mom, and Morgenthaler and the Uptones.
The main band was the Beat.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Dave and Roger.
International Beat.
International Beat, but they had Dave and Roger, and International Beat had Saxa and Everett.
Yeah.
And Dave and Roger, it was the first time they played since General Public, I think, together.
Yeah,
and
I had seen them play. They actually played with Gene Loves Jezebel.
Oh, okay.
Back then. But I did see them. I saw them in Riverside. I have my concert stub still.
You loved that, didn't you? You're going to start getting out your Flock of Seagulls stuff soon, aren't you?
Yeah, I have all kinds of stuff. I've been around a while too. I'm only like 10 years younger than you.
Really?
Yeah.
You look much better though.
Oh, thank you. It must be the California sun.
Well, I can't grow a beard. I don't know why. I'd love to have a beard if I could get one and look like Chris Christopherson did. But it's never going to happen.
That you worked with plenty of legends. Some you've mentioned: Laurel Aitken, Prince Buster, Lee Perry, Susan Cottigan, Scatolites, Rico Rodriguez, and your buddy Judge Dredd, where you pretty much wrote most of the tracks on this one, right?
Yeah. I actually got, when the first day in the studio, we finished the track, and he actually turned and said to me, "You're the first other person I've ever written with." Because all the hit records he had in England, because he had a lot of big hits. He was big, in England. Every record was banned. They didn't play it on the radio, the TV, and he wrote with his manager. And so that was the first time with us, and I was just, And we had, on the track was called The Ballad of Judge Dredd, and it had Rico on it. He's playing the trombone on it. I remember that.
That's even got him listed there. But you're second, right under Judge Dredd.
Am I?
Rico doesn't even have top billing.
Wow. Well, I tell you something about that, which really it upset me. A friend of mine played on there, and for some reason, I'd only ever blame myself because if I'm a producer, I blame myself, even if it isn't to do with me and record companies when it's their fault. But a friend of mine played sax on one of the tracks, and hold on, we'll just get rid of this person
Oh,
who's ringing up, who in fact I told not to ring up while I was on. But hold on, stay there. Just turn this up. Yeah. Right, that person is now gone. Right, slip down. I'm slipping. This is ridiculous. This is the most. Right. Hi. Right. And he plays sax on it. And he was very upset, rightly so, because he wasn't credited on it. And I'll blame myself because as producer, I think I should take the responsibility, even if it's not my responsibility. And I didn't do it. But Dave Hilliard, who's got the Slackers,
Yep.
he played on that.
And he was in Donkey Show also.
Yeah, yeah.
Eastern Standard Time. He's been Rocksteady 7. He's been in everything.
Player. And if he's there now, Dave, I'll take all the responsibility for it, even though it was the record company who missed that and someone else on it as well. And he played a great solo on one of the tracks. I think it was On the Beach, version of On the Beach. But that was so fun. Honestly, I did 2 albums in a month in the same studio. I did that one for 2 weeks, and then an album called In Your Face with my band Big Five, which is great. And it came out in America on a label Triple X, who were great people. They were really nice people.
Yeah, I think they also released the Bad Manners Fat Sound album.
Yeah, I mean, I did some stuff on that. I didn't want to. That's one of the reasons why I left or chose to do other things. Because we'd just done a record called Return of the Ugly. It was good. People really liked it.
I love that album.
And then we started talking about doing this third mention briefly of the Beatles on this, our White Album. You know, like where you've got like double album, half the songs are kind of traditional songs of Bad Manners, and then we would do like weird stuff, and we started writing out a list. We'd get Lee Perry was one of them. Maybe he'd come, and then maybe we do this, do that, do the other. And I was getting all excited. I was vibed up, and that turned into a covers album. And that's when I knew I don't want to do this.
Yeah,
I tried to persuade people that it was not a good move, because we were on the way up. Like we did that show I said in 1990 with the thing, and everyone was talking about Bad Manners and Return the Ugly was out, and we was going up. And then after that, I just thought no, and shame really, because I haven't spoke to Buster for 30 years or something.
Oh wow.
We went to school together, and a thing called Scouts as well. I don't know what the equivalent would be in America, but anyway, it's where you learn to be a good individual. And those occasions when he looked after me when I was young. Like I remember going to this 1977. I was punk rocker. Went to this pub, which I shouldn't have been in because I was only 15, and there was some rockers there, biker boys, and they wanted to beat me up, and him and another guy fought them for us. So it's a real shame that we don't speak, but what can you do? You can't do the same thing your whole life. You have to move on. You know what I mean? I mean, I've just, as I said, yesterday got these records delivered to me, CDs delivered to me, but I'm already thinking about what to do next. You know what I mean? I've already started writing other songs. I've always been a big fan as well, like of Three Men and Black Lat. You're forgetting, I did 2 albums under the name Selector Acoustic with Paul Lynn, which I really like. They're really good albums. And I do like acoustic music. And I think sometimes, I suppose the only person really I know who does it is Chris Murray. I think you can sometimes get nearer to the original Scar on your own with an acoustic guitar. Real rootsy, folky, no brass, no nothing. Maybe a little bit of percussion somewhere. I, in fact, did an acoustic show for Chris, 2007. What was it
Blue
called?
Beat Lounge.
Blue Beat Lounge, yeah, on Hollywood Boulevard, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I
Well,
think.
no, it was on. It was
Or
in.
is it,
So it was in NoHo in North Hollywood. I
no,
thought it
this
was
is
at the Knitting Factory.
a different building that he had then, because I could walk from where I was. I was in the Days Inn next to the In-N-Out Burger on Sunset, and I walked up
Oh,
one road, and it was just there,
got
just
it.
by the Chinese. I think it was there. So I think it was a different thing.
No, yeah, I think you're right. He must have changed it to the Knitting Factory later.
Look at me telling you about America. Yeah, it was. It was. Yeah,
Well,
I
you
think it
lived
was.
it.
It was the knitting factory. You're quite right, because they had one in New York as well, the
Yeah.
knitting factory. But yeah,
Yeah. So we talked about
sexy.
artists that you work with, but
Yeah.
has there been any artists that you want to collaborate with in the
Oh,
future?
millions,
Really?
millions. Um, I'm I'm a big fan of the '70s toasting scene. I always wanted. I've met him a few times, and lovely guy. Wanted to work with Dennis Al Capone,
Mm,
which is a big one. And there's been others like that, but yeah, Dennis Al Capone was one. I love that style.
hmm
I just love that whole thing. It's like, I don't know. And there was talk at one point that was going to write some songs with my friend Dave Wakelin, but it never happened. And it's a shame, because I get on good with Dave and he's a lovely guy.
hmm
And it would be nice, because we kind of shared a kind of pop thing as well. I think we would have made some good music, but you never know.
There's
Might
still
happen.
time.
Yeah, I mean, who knows if I can get over and do a show. As I said, I really would like to do a show, King Hammond show, but I know geographically I'm wrong, but in what I call LA, like
Yeah.
knitting factory kind
Right.
of area or whatever, you know. I'd love it. Or maybe there might be a Scar Fest on that they could invite me to play with a band or something,
All right.
you know, nice big band, loads of brass or whatever, be a guest or whatever. I mean, obviously, I understand, as I said before, with bands, it's too expensive.
hmm
It's too expensive. But to just, for a promoter, because people just haven't got the money. Well, they certainly haven't got it in this country anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, but
Now, I had the opportunity to see you live in Santa Ana a few years back,
yeah,
as you came up from Mexico with members of Tijuana No that
yeah.
backed you. Can you tell us about how this all came about? And let me share some photos here that from that show. Not sure if you could see that.
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Okay, so we got Gil Castro right here from Twist and Shake Radio. We got
Oh, okay.
John Castro. I'm sorry, Gil Sanchez, John Castro, myself. There's you, Ray
Looking
Blackpool.
rather large, I think.
What's that?
I'm looking rather large.
This was the
I've lost
show. It was
5
back
stone.
in 23.
Yeah.
Here's you on stage with the
Okay.
Tijuana No, and here's you and I.
Wow. I remember I remember you there. Of course, I remember you there, and I remember talking to you.
Yeah,
And I also remember there was 2 girls there.
yeah, the Dub Sisters that they're called.
Dub sisters. That was it. Yeah.
They go to like every show, and they're always dancing and jumping around, and yeah.
It's lovely. I mean, I can't tell you how much I would like to come back. And if you meet anybody, just tell them I would like to come and whatever. I just, I've got so many good memories of the place, and I just feel like I've got something different to offer an American audience.
Right.
I don't know how many English bands you get over there now. I don't know. I mean, you said
Not many.
probably
Not many at all.
not many. And so I really would love to come. I'd love to do a gig with, say, in fact, I did a gig with Fishbone and the Scatterlights at the Ink and Iron Festival in 2011. But I'd love to do something like that. I
Well,
just feel like
you're not the only one that has struggles trying to get your band on Supernova. I talked to Skaos from Germany,
yeah,
and they've been
right,
trying for years too.
yeah,
And
no, no doubt. I'm sure it's not personal.
oh
I
yeah,
just think I just think they have the set amount of bands, and that's it, you know. But you
Right.
know, hopefully one time, I would like
Yeah.
to do it. It looks nice and a chilled out thing,
It is.
you know.
Jose goes every year.
Yeah, no, well, I don't blame you. Very, very nice,
Mhm.
Just
you
the
know.
last
But
two
I don't know when
years.
it's on this year. They're probably booked up already, you know. So
Yeah,
maybe next year when it's my 40th anniversary for King Hammond,
that's
Maybe. There you go.
yeah, we'll pitch it to them as well.
that'd be
Yeah.
lovely. That'd be
Now the song Scoville Ole. How did you come up
yeah.
with that title and the idea for the song?
It's the worst title ever. Well, obviously it's Scarborough, UK, and I went to Spain, and there was a Spanish band, and ole, and so I did that, and chose the picture to do, which I took as a joke, right? Outside a Spanish bar in London, I was playing a small club there acoustically, and I just had this silly hat, Spanishy hat. I think it is. I hope it is anyway. And then the guy said, oh, that could be the cover. And I said, okay. And now I can't even look at it. I look like, I don't know. It just looks like the worst comedian ever, a really unfunny comedian. Um, but, you know, but the track was nice. The B-side's better. It's called Give Me Some Soul, I think. And yeah, I love working with other bands. I love that. I've done 3 tracks with an Argentinian band called Scar Beat City. I think one of them is just about to come out on a compilation called Proper Scar.
Mm.
I think there was one that's already been out
Hmm.
called Proper Scar, and this is volume 2.
Right.
You know, but yeah, I love it. I mean, I'd love to collaborate with an American band. You
Mm.
know, I'd really like that. But yeah, so I knew Hoge or Jorge, how pronounce it, from Tijuana No for ages, since the early
Okay.
90s. They supported Scotland. I'm getting tired. They supported the Selector, and he's just become a real good. We call each other brothers because we're like, you know, that expression, brother from another mother.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, and invite, and I go down and I stay with him. I wrote a song about him, which is on the King Hammond album. It's on an album called Dancing in the Garden of Evil.
Hmm.
It's also on a new compilation called Put On Your Monkey Boots, and it's called Chula Vista Scarman. And
Oh,
I was taking a risk with that because he lives in Chula Vista.
Yeah.
But I was taking a risk with that because his girlfriend, who was quite wicked, you know, she was funny, sense of humour, and when she spoke, you know, it sounded such good. I said, so good. I said, could you do this on the track? So she could have been saying anything, but I trusted her with it. And you know, and I don't think it did. You know, say anything, but you know, King Hammond hates you all, and he thinks you're an idiot for buying this record. And she's going, and I trusted it's good. But yeah, he's great. I did those shows, did a great one in San Diego there, and hopefully coming back in say October. I mean, it's basically because it's not a money thing; it's just a holiday. You know, I get to go away with my lovely wife and meet some friends and do some shows. But as I said, I would like to up it a little and maybe play in a more prestige show in
Hmm.
LA, maybe an old
mhm.
reggae artist there or something, and a new band or whatever, you know.
Yeah, that
So
show was
maybe,
strange because there was 2 other shows that same day when I saw you. The Agrolites were actually playing just not too far away that
yeah.
night too. So it was strange how that like all came
Well, it's
about.
strange to play at 3 o'clock or whatever it was in the afternoon
Yeah.
or whatever it is, you know. It's not the best time to play, but you know, do what I always do. You know, do what I always do. You know, try and entertain, try and do that. And
Mm.
next time, hopefully, you know, as I said, we'll be tighter as a band. I mean, it was pretty tight as it was, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, you know, you'd only met the people like the day before. You
Yeah.
know, some of the people, you know, and they're lovely people. And hopefully, as I say, next time, I just would like to play in what you know, obviously not the Palace, but that kind of area would be great. I don't even know if there's a gig there or a venue there or whatever, but you
It
know,
is. It's still there. I forgot what it's called now. But they basically just have like Smiths conventions and stuff there, Depeche Mode
really,
conventions.
you know, well, you know, I'd like to. I just love the whole thing. I'd like to play there, as long as it's next to an In-N-Out burger, so I can like feed, feed my
Yeah,
addiction.
gotta get that burger. Yeah.
So now, how many continents have you actually played on or in? Do you even know? It's been probably all of them, right?
All
No,
of them.
I wouldn't know. But I mean, I've been to a lot of places. Let's just put. I mean, I don't know, Japan, Mexico, Argentina, all the, Scandinavia, Australia. Thank you, darling. Australia. A lot of places I've toured,
Mhm.
and once again, I don't want to sound that I'm over grateful, but I am. I am. The fact that you get there, and you're not having to pay to get there, really. You know, um, and I just so happy that you meet and say in Japan, Scar fans out there, and the fact that they even know who you are amazes me. Not getting darker. I'm going to turn into some kind of vampire, or whatever it is. What's the one I just watched? I just watched a series. My mind is going, and it was called There. I don't know, 4 words in the title, and it's based on a game show. It has a great actress, and the guy's name's Pedro, who's the star, the actor. Do you know him? And I've
No,
just been
4
watching
words in the game show?
no, it's a drama, and it's based on a game show. It's called the few of us, or something like. But it was great anyway, and they got darker and darker as it went through.
Are you talking
Anyway,
about a game show or a video game?
no, this is a drama. What's it called, darling?
Are you thinking The Last of Us?
The Last of Us.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's based on a video game.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I'm going to hold this, for the remaining whatever of this lovely
Yeah.
interview.
I think we got a few more questions. I think Jose.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fire away. Is this a live thing? Is this going out live?
No, it's not
No,
live
it's not
yet.
live.
No, we're gonna put it out later.
Edit it, maybe.
See that again?
Edit some of the waffling. Oh, look, I look even better now. You see that you see that poster there?
Yeah.
It's Bronco Bullfrog. That's a 1970s English skinhead film.
Oh, really?
Yeah, look it up. I think it's on YouTube. You can see it. It's
Bronco
skinheads and
Bulldog.
suede heads in it. But I mean, it's a film. The characters are just skinheads in it. It's not about being a skinhead.
Right. Okay.
Anyway, ask me some more questions,
All right.
please.
So ska music has gone through various waves and revivals. What are your thoughts on the current state of the ska scene globally?
Well, the thing is, I don't really know anything. I pick up on bands here and there, but I don't see like like third wave, as they called it.
Right.
I don't see that at the minute. Like I remember when it was third wave, and wasn't that taken over by swing? That became the big thing in America for a while, whatever. So I don't know if there's a so-called sort of movement as such. But everything from the original days right through to like the 1970 period to the two-tone period. There was even in 1989 in England, now they call it the ska explosion years or whatever. And that's bands like, well, people like myself and Maroon Town, Potato Five, and all that sort of stuff. So they've all got value, but I only judge bands individually.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. I was there.
That's the one.
I was very drunk. No, I mean, I wasn't performing. I went along with Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
If that's
okay.
It has pretty much everybody. Loafers, Laurel Aitken, Potato Five, your buddies Judge Dredd, all kinds of bands.
Yeah, no. They did a gig at the Astoria in London.
Yeah, that's where this is.
And I was a bit worse for wear. I thought I'd go along and be a bit Keith Moon, but I don't think I lasted as long as Keith Moon did. I had to go home or something. But yeah, I remember that. Yeah, well, that's. There's one out at the moment on Cherry Red Records called, I don't know what it's called. It's got a picture of a Ben Sherman-y black and white check thing. Very intelligent cover. And yeah, they got all the bands on there, and bands that I'd never heard of either, and stuff. It goes right through that period. But yeah, I mean, it's just individual bands, as I said. Like, I mean, you couldn't put Fishbone in any bracket, could you?
Right.
No.
You know, they were just individually brilliant.
Mhm.
You know, I just thought they were, you know, I actually thought they were going to be huge. You know, I don't know what stopped the band being chart huge and whatever. Maybe they were too good.
Well, they
But I
got big
remember
enough to play. What did they play? They played when I saw them. Uh, like later on when I saw them, they were playing. Not Lollapalooza. Yeah, wasn't Lollapalooza. It was. There
oh,
was
what was that?
another big festival that they played with
Oh, I
like
remember.
Dinosaur
I know what you
Jr. and
mean.
Rage Against the Machine and
I know the one you mean. Has it
Coachella.
got?
I think it was Coachella.
Oh, was it Coachella? I thought he was going to say the one about skateboarding. What was that?
Oh, the Van
Warped
Warped Tour.
Tour?
Yeah, the Warp. That was
Yeah,
it.
they played that too. I've seen them there too.
I don't know. I just can't say. When I heard, I remember being over in America and heard the track "Mar and Pa," and I thought that's the one. That's going to be. That's going to send them overboard.
Hmm. That was
And
from
you
the In
know,
Your Face album, I think.
yeah, and like also, I love the Untouchables. I thought they were so good. And
Yeah,
another band, which are now, unfortunately, for all the wrong reasons, if that makes any sense, that are getting more thing who I thought were just brilliant is Hepcat.
yes.
And
Oh,
unfortunately,
yes.
through tragedy, that I think more and more
Yes.
people are hearing them.
Well,
So
same
there's
with
no good.
Jerry from the Untouchables. He passed, like a
I
couple
know,
months
I
or a
know,
month before, I think Greg did.
I know. I did a gig last Saturday, and two people were there, come to see us. They went in the dressing room, signed the things, and they started talking about some new bands. And I said, "Yeah, it's all good, it's all good." And they said, "Yeah, because you got to remember, Nick, you're not always going to be here, are you?" I don't what. And you know, you were just about to take a 6-hour trip home on the motorway in the dark, and someone's
Yeah.
just,
Oh,
well, you're going to go sometime. And I'm thinking, oh God, he knows something I don't know. But yeah, I mean, for
Here's
me, everything
here's
is a
Jerry from the Untouchables and I.
oh,
This was like a year before he passed. This was at the Derek Morgan show.
big,
Can you
big, big, big
did you see that
favorite
one?
of mine.
Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, 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 big favorites, you know. And I like to. We've even, but funny. I was just talking about this to someone today. I've got a venue about 200 yards or 500 yards from my house here. We've got a few venues, and in September they got Steve Ferris there playing there, which I thought was quite strange.
Hmm.
You know, you know, the fact that if it's a whole band coming over to England, it's the same things I'm saying about going over there. It costs money,
Hmm.
you know, and so I'll try and get up to see them. You know, well, we'll go up and see them if I'm not playing. You know, but you know, the whole thing of the movements. I mean, yeah, two tone was like a kind of movement, but you know, in a different way. I mean, but it's strange that one because but mostly you got five, was it five, whatever good bands all at one time. Just because it's like say Third Wave or Scar Explosion, but it doesn't mean the bands are all good. And it's not for me to say if they're good or not. It's just personal taste, isn't it? I will side with any musician over anyone who's slagging them off. When I hear people say, I hate that band, I say, well, no, you can just say it's not to your taste.
yeah.
You
There
know,
you go.
you know, because you know it can be a very hard job. I don't know too many jobs where you can go to it and not know if you're going to be paid at the end of the night.
Mm.
You know, if you go to work and you're working in 7-Eleven or whatever, I think you're pretty guaranteed you're going to get paid or
Right.
work for the post office or whatever. Sometimes I did a gig once. I mean, there's very few times it's happened to me. Did a gig once and it was packed in there. And I thought, oh, I'll get the money later or whatever. And then I went up to him, he goes, I haven't got your money. And I said, what? Because he's packed. He goes, yeah, I got all the advance ticket money. I had bills to pay, so I spent it all.
Oh, oh, gee.
Oh,
Don't get that in what you call a regular 9 to 5 job or whatever it is, you know, regular 9 to 5, whatever the time is, 10 till 9. But yeah, that was, no, it's funny now, but it wasn't funny at the time. You
I'm
know,
sure. Yeah, hopefully you got that money eventually.
I did get that, yeah. But I mean, just came up straight when I said I had bills to pay. It's been a bad month. oh, okay.
Oh,
If you're a policeman or a fireman, you get paid, quite rightly so. And a musician is the same. Some people, and because of all the streaming thing and stuff, and whatever, some people don't think you should pay for music. It should all be free.
Mm.
Which unfortunately it costs money to do, and this, that, and the other. And it's nice to get some kind of something back.
Well,
yeah.
that actually gets me to my next question, because I was going to ask you where can we actually find both your physical media and if you have anything digital.
Right. When you look if you put King Hammond into, say, Spotify, I think it comes up with like 6 songs that are all cover songs, which is strange because I say I don't do cover songs. I do them
Right.
for Specialized, and so they put them on there.
Got it.
So I've got no say in that. But as I said, I will be doing that. As far as physical stuff goes, it can only be bought through me.
And what's that website?
It isn't a website. You don't know how amateur I am.
Okay,
It's
so where can they purchase? How do they
through
get
my
a hold of your
Facebook.
music?
Through my Facebook. They
Okay.
just approach
Facebook?
me.
Yeah.
They just say, I send a personal message. I put some posts up about it, and then, and that's the other thing. It's like at least then you can work out a deal for people. If you say, well, this one's good, blah, blah. All right, I'll tell you what to do. Do this, and I'll give it to you for cheap.
Mm.
Whatever. You can do that kind of thing, or like I say, with postage and stuff, it's becoming a real problem. Because then you have to, you don't want to be losing all that, but at the same time, I want people to get the best possible deal they can.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's what's important. So then it becomes important that maybe you gig a lot, right? Because then you can sell them straight at the show to the person.
Right.
But I don't gig a lot because in this country, there's so many bands and there's so many things happening every night, and and it's hard to get shows.
Mm-hmm.
I can go over to Mexico or wherever and get shows, but in this country we have a lot of cover bands and stuff like that. I've seen do my songs. I've seen it on the thing,
Huh.
and good luck to them, But so you're competing against a lot of things, and there's a part of you, or a part of me, should I say, where a slight amount of ego kicks in and think, you know what, I feel like I should be asked to do these shows.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I should go, cap in hand, and do it. So maybe that's why I don't work as much as I should do. Maybe it's my own fault. But I keep on coming back to this thing, honesty in life and in music. That's my life, and I will make the best records I can, the most honest records I can, and the same with the live performance. I will not leave a place without people getting, if they want something signed. I mean, stuff with you got signed there. I get it. And I won't leave a place till it's done. If there's people there, I'm not going to say you're tired or whatever. I'm sure the people who are there to see you get tired after they've been working for whatever,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's all about, and it's a partnership. It's you as an artist and an audience. I I just sometimes get amazed at the way people sometimes I've seen treat audiences. I think, it's not what I would do. But there you go. That's just me.
So can we talk about in the past, like about the Boneheads and going to the shows and stuff? What was all that about? And
What boneheads?
The Nazi skins.
Oh, yeah, well, I don't get that. I mean, I'd like to think that it's not there anymore. I think I might be stupid if I think that, but I certainly had it back in the old days with Bad Manners and Selector. I remember one. In fact, it was at that show I told you about at the Variety Arts Centre as Buster's All Stars. And sometimes you don't realise. I went to a party the night before. Well, I was at a party with Donkey Show, and the police knocked on the door, and because it was apparently too loud, and everybody packed up and just stopped. And England, they would have said, you know what I mean? We're not doing that.
Mm.
Anyway, so we're in there. I was just about to go out to meet some people I'd arranged to meet outside the venue, and I got stopped by a policeman. And he said, you can't go out there, there's trouble. And I said, what do you mean trouble? And he went, there's some Ku Klux Klan skinheads out there starting trouble. So me being a smart ass Englishman said, how do you know they're skinheads if they've got pillowcases over their heads? And he wasn't impressed by this. You better get back, buddy. You're getting me angry. I thought he was going to join in the joke, you know, Ku Klux Klan skinheads. How do you tell? You got a big pillowcase over your head and stuff, whatever. But, you know, yeah, we used to get that, and you know, but it's horrible. I've been gassed. I've seen it gassed loads of times. Trouble. I've been stopped in the street when I was with my daughter when she was like 7 by someone saying, "Why do you play in this so and so loving band?" It's horrible. You know, it's horrible. I don't see any visual stuff on like say social media, too much of it now. Maybe it's just because no one on my pages are like that. I'm sure it must still go on. You know, and when times are bad, I'm not talking about skinheads, I'm talking about generally, people turn on people, don't they? You know, if it's going bad for you, you blame everybody else except for say people in charge. Maybe you shouldn't blame or whatever, you know. I've done enough songs and in my book, I said enough things to let people know exactly where I stand on it. You know, as I said, when I grew up, it wasn't a thing I had to think about. People of different colors, national, whatever, were just my friends or they weren't. You either liked them or you didn't. Color never came into it. And sometimes I'm led to believe now when I've said that, that's apparently a naive way to live your life, but I don't believe that. Treat everybody the same until they treat me badly or I see a side that I think that's not nice, then we can be friends, you know.
Now you mentioned your book, The Life and Times of a Ska Man. What made you decide was that
very honest book?
Very honest. What made you decide to write an autobiography? And
people kept on telling me. They kept on saying you should do it, you know, and because you've got loads of stories. In fact, the truth of the matter is, and there will be an updated version of this coming pretty soon, right? Really and truly, there's nothing in the book. It's great. It's an entertaining book, a great read. But people said, "Why didn't you write about that?" Oh, I forgot about that one. Oh, that one. Oh, I forgot about that. I just chose something I thought from that year, and I'd write. I think, well, that must be whatever. But like as far as like, you know, I was very open about recreational drug taking, drink, whatever. Like you just said, trouble with people coming along who I'd rather didn't come along to any show that I'm any part of. In fact, there was a lot of things, lists. I'm a big list fan. And I think I said top 5 racial attacks that involved me against me. You know, like, you know, putting things to charts and stuff just to, I don't know, maybe it would belittle them a little bit, you know. But like, you know, because we've had some nasty people, you know, but it was in the past. I'd like to think that it's different now. As I said, I might be being naive, but, you know, I hope not, you know.
I don't know. This administration in the United States is kind of, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, you get to hear, you know, quite a lot about it. And I've never known a time when you hear so much about an administration in the United States over here. Before it'd be the 3rd item on the news. Now it's like, you know, it's always on there, you know. I mean, the world is getting pretty messed up, but I'm not sure if it's that way. But as I said, maybe I'm this strange mixture of, I came up with music when I finally knew that I could do it through punk, and I've got certain hippie values as well. And maybe I'm walking through life with my eyes closed. I just want it to be nice for everyone. I want you to do well. I want you both to have the best lives you can have, and whatever. The same as I want for everybody. You know, and And if that's naive, then I'm naive. But that's all I want. I'm one of them. I'm a peace and love man.
Right, right. Now, I got one final question. Now, picture Scott History Hour viewers discovering King Hammond for the first time. Which track should they queue up and why?
Well, as I said, my own personal favorite is one called The Outsider.
Yeah.
But there's a track called Mr. Easy Talk I really like,
Okay.
which it's about, well, in this country 15 years ago, there was a big thing about politicians claiming expenses for things that maybe they shouldn't do. Like, not for travel, for equipment to clean their garden with and stuff, And it was just, then it became a bit political, but not in a ram it down your throat way, like that. So, or Cool Down Your Temper is the one I'd go for, because that is the first track I did when I came back as King Hammond, and it's about gun and knife crime in the area where I live. I mean, it applies to everybody in the whole world. But when you walk out of your house and you walk through your dog or your grandkids or whatever, and then you see flowers against a lamppost or trees with cards on it, and you see another 14-year-old kid who's been stabbed in some senseless thing, arguments about postcodes, they call it over here, whatever. You're not from this area, and it's just horrible. Just life gone, and I don't know what it is you can do about it. I know people go, oh, there should be more clubs for kids to do. I don't know what you do. All I know is it's upsetting for me. It must be the worst thing in the world any parent can go through. I imagine what a kid must feel like when he's or the victim of something. The last few seconds of that must be just horrible, the worst thing ever. And all I'm saying, but in my heart, I know there's good. It's time to break out from under the hood. You know what I mean? And so I would go with that because it's a message of unity, peace, love, even though it's about not a very nice subject. And that's
Cool Down Your Temper.
Yeah, Cool Down Your Temper. It was on the first album of King and I. I know it's been on. I think it could be on a record I saw. Look in the back. All you can see is Bowie records. Look, Bowie. Look. But there are some punk books you can see there. You can see the Clash there in pink.
Oh,
I see the Clash. Yeah.
I'm obsessed with the Clash. So I saw them over, I'd say, 60 times in my life. Only band I know I went to see 4 nights running at the same venue. They were obviously the headline band. The support band was the Coventry Automatics.
Oh yeah, before the specials.
And bottom of the bill, who got bottled off every night, was a band called Suicide, American band, who I love. I grew to love them. I must admit, I didn't love them at the time. I didn't throw a bottle at them, but I didn't love them. I just wanted to see the Clash on stage,
Of course.
And so Cool Down Your Temper, because I like it as well, because it's more to the reggae side of thing, but the old style reggae. And I like it because there's no drum kit on it. It's just one big bass drum, like they play in a big band. That's the drum, and it's just that little bit of difference. It's like me putting a banjo on a track, or what I'll put a bassoon on this track, just to have that little bit of difference.
Cool.
Now, sorry. So now, last questions. What does the future hold for King Hammond?
No, I'm afraid that was the last question. He said that. I'm sorry.
That's for me.
That was his last question
for me. My last question.
I always usually sum up the interviews asking, what does the future hold for King Hammond? And any last words for your fans or the viewers out there?
The future holds just trying to play more, to travel more, to see more people around the world and in this country as well, because I don't play anywhere near enough in this country. To make more music, new music always. As I said, 15 years, 250 songs. let's get that up to 300. Because I always think if I set myself targets like that, then I'm going to be around. And when you've had near-death experiences, you start worrying a bit about it, you know. But and as far as you're concerned, as far as America is concerned, because that's where you're from and that's who I'm speaking to, I really would like to come over and play, like, you know, some shows. If there was ever like festivals or something, like the one I remember we did, Skavuvi.
Oh yeah,
That was great. That was a great one. You know, I mean, doesn't that was quite a big tour, you know, but you know, not even that. If I could play 4 gigs in LA or Orange County, whatever, that would be great for me. I can't begin to tell you how much love, and it's all down to the memories of it. And I still love it over there, and you know, I want to go to a rodeo as well.
Rodeo, that'd be awesome.
Texas for that.
Right, no, this is what happened, right? So last time I was over was 2023. I went with my friend and I said, "Is there any Western shops?" And he went, "Yeah, I think there's one here." So we went to this Western shop. They weren't very good shirts, though. I wanted a Western shirt, what I call a cowboy shirt. And in there, the guy stopped us as we was leaving the door and he said, "Oh, by the way, do you like rodeo?" I goes, "Yes." And he goes, "Well, there's one," and it was like half an hour down the road. So we drove then. Just as we come, it was starting to get a lot busier. And I can't remember where it was, but you could see it was a little stadium, maybe 15,000 people. And I saw the flags out. It was America. You know, as in like when people wanted to show, you know, whatever, that was it. I could see just people, families picnicking on the thing. It was great. And I could see this girl on a rodeo, looked like the girl from Dukes of Hazzard. And I wanted to be in it, but it was obviously sold out well in advance. We'd found out like half an hour before.
Oh,
you know, if I could have and I saw guys playing with guitars, I could have grabbed his guitar and run out and tried to get an audience there.
Yeah.
Right. I know you've had rodeos and some country. Now I want you to hear some old ska played on them.
Yeah.
But no, you know, so all my memories are just so good, and I want those memories I want to make new memories. You know,
yeah,
I really want to, and it's just that thing, and that's another reason why I'm going to go back and look at the streaming thing, is because if that's the way you have to be to get people to hear it, then I'll do it. You know,
right.
I'll just do it. As I said, I paid for albums to go on there before, and this, and after a month, I don't like this. What, you can pick and choose your track. You know, I make an album. I wanted to just do it from start to finish, like we used to do. You know, and this, but you know, maybe you set your things too high. So I think I will be doing that. You know, there's loads of services and there's streamers. So you know, maybe if that's the way people get to hear about stuff these days, it's like this. Look at it this way. I'm astounded. I don't know what it's like in America, but when I see young people better looking than I ever was, and they meet their things on dating sites, I said, "What? Don't you go out to like the bar? You meet your eyes meet across the bar, you know, and then you start chatting. You meet for the next time, and you start going out. Apparently, no, you just go on a dating site. That's what you do. So maybe what you do is you just go onto Spotify or Bandcamp or whatever it is. So I'm prepared to be adaptable. I mean, but you know, I don't know where the dating site. Someone was just talking to me about Tinder the other day. That was it. And I didn't know what it was. Apparently, it was just a place to meet for physical whatever.
Yeah, we know what you mean.
Yeah, cool. I don't know, but I remember talking to person. I was thinking, but you're very nice, and you could get a girlfriend or whatever it was, boyfriend, whatever. And I'm just a bit astounded. That's the way you do it, and I feel a bit sad about that. The idea when you know, like when I met my wife, you know, you look across the bar and you say, "Oh, she looks nice," blah blah blah, and then 40 years later, you're regretting every day.
Oh God, hope she's not listening.
No, I have a joke just for her benefit, but I thought
All
I'd
right,
leave
well,
you
let's go ahead and sum this up. Now we appreciate the time that you took with us, Nick, Mr. King Hammond, in regards to your life, your stories, your band, everything. We'll see what we
2 hours and a half. It's like a Bruce Springsteen concert.
We'll see what we can do to get you out here. Try to put something together.
Say he's good.
Yeah. So hold on just a second. We got to ask you a question right after. So let's go ahead and sum up this recording.
Hello, Skankers. Jose here, aka Skanking Force. Would you like to win a free Ska Box? It's as easy as following Ska Box Rocks and Sniff Dog Records on Instagram and Facebook. And subscribe to Ska History Hour on YouTube and comment Ska Box Rocks in any video to enter. Good luck!